It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha, it's Feedback Friday, and this Feedback Friday, we are going to focus on people who play nice and are fair and don't come in with a biased viewpoint looking to just hate bomb my channel. Because that doesn't work, hate bombing my channel. But in the productive parts of the conversation about DEI, thank you to those who participated. It came up that the issue for people who are coming at this in good faith tends to be the equity pillar. And they understood equity to mean equality of outcome. And that's not what the equity principle means the way I was taught it. And this is the point where people coming at it in bad faith go, yes, it is. That's what it means. If equality of outcome was what they were aiming for, they would say equality of outcome. The problem with this bad faith argument is no matter how many times I show you websites, definitions, that is not the definition of empathy, of equity. Someone will go, yes, it is. It just means equality of outcome. And we go around in a fucking circle. Fuck off. If you're not willing to listen and you go, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You're acting like a child having a meltdown. Take it somewhere else, please. Thank you. Everybody else, we will proceed. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. And I will own being cranky on this subject because there are people who have legitimate concerns about this stuff. And those concerns deserve to be addressed. And they get drowned out by the bad faith assholes. And that's why I'm pissed off. Because a part of equity is that those people with good faith concerns matter. And okay, they need a little more to get on board. That's fair because not everybody starts in the same place. That is the difference when people say equity instead of equality. It's no matter what word you use, someone's going to shit all over it. And personally, I would rather deal with the issue of equality and what that means. Because equality, rights, and equity are not the same thing. Equality just means all people are treated equal. And the problem with equality, the best way I can describe it is a Sesame Street sketch. Because equality can mean everybody gets stuff. Equality can also mean nobody gets anything. That way it's fair. And there was a sketch on Sesame Street where Ernie and Bert had these scales and cherries, maraschino cherries. And they wanted to make sure there were an equal number of cherries. And so one side of the scale was higher than the other. And so Ernie took the cherries from nom, 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 nom. And he took too many. And so now the other side. And so he ate from the other side. And the cherries were just dwindling and dwindling and dwindling. And so there was one cherry on either side. And Ernie goes, see, now we have the same amount when he just ate all the cherries. And Bert goes, and it's funny. And this is highly sophisticated stuff developed for children. Because it was funny because Ernie was being a little jerk. But it also showed the principle that equal sometimes isn't fair. You can take a snapshot and yes, the scales were balanced. But it didn't really seem fair there. That's an example of what people who go, equality isn't really equitable. And as we move into equity, I do think it's important to factor in both meanings of the word, because I do think the idea of equity in, the ownership interest, the value of something, you gain equity in your home because it appreciates in value. I do think that is essential to understanding how the difference between giving everybody the same thing. Everybody gets a check mailed to them. Well, that means that people don't need the money, and people who do need the money get the same thing. Well, is that fair? Well, no, you're not evening anything out. You're not affecting the inequality. You're just giving everybody the same thing. Oh, that's fair. That's equality, right? No, the word equality doesn't mean equality anymore. This is the whole problem that equity was trying to solve for, right? Equity is defined as recognizing that we do not all start from the same place and must acknowledge and make adjustments to imbalances. The process is ongoing, requiring us to identify and overcome intentional and unintentional barriers arising from bias or systemic structures. And that's part of the reason I'm so cranky about the people spamming my channel with bullshit. Because the people who do have, I keep hearing for 10 years, I've been hearing that people with legitimate concerns are getting lumped in with the bad actors. And I completely agree. What these people with legitimate concerns are saying is, I just need a little bit more. Please treat me like a human being. If you felt that way, you understand equity. That's what it is. No, that's not what it means. Stop. You are having an emotional response. I don't know why, but I just read a definition from the NACE Center, the Career Development and Talent Acquisition Center. That's what equity means. What it means in work is, okay, equality. Everybody has to write the same entrance test. Here's the problem with that. Often it's used examples, right? And if your examples involve things that one group of people have a lot of experience with and another group of people have never encountered, well, it's equal. Everybody writes the same test, but it's not fair, is it? It's autistic people being very worried about the idea that they're expected to read nonverbal cues. When what's a symptom of autism? They have trouble reading nonverbal cues. And here's an example using that of equality and equity. Equality. Everybody is expected to read nonverbal cues. That's equality, right? That's fair. Same rules for everybody. Equity. Well, maybe the metric, maybe the expectation should be, if you want somebody to stop doing something, clearly say stop. Because some people can read nonverbal cues and can notice you're uncomfortable. Other people need that little bit more. Equity is about finding a standard that does need ongoing check-ins to recognize that, hey, that didn't read my nonverbal cues is not a fair standard if you want to be inclusive of autistic people. That's an example right there. And, and then you get this series of trade-offs. Like, okay, we expect everyone to say, I need you to stop doing that, please. Well, the trade-off is that somebody can't go, well, that was rude. What a bitch. No, because again, society does have a higher tolerance for men going, I need you to stop, than women do. And so, if you want people to go, I need you to stop doing that, please, some people are going to be more comfortable with that than others. If you can just turn around and go, well, that was bitchy, because women are expected to be nice and kind and wonderful, and men are expected to be assholes, and therefore get more allowance just to go, hey, cut it the fuck out. Well, that's not equitable, isn't it? Is it? Like, that's not equal or equitable, but that is what happens. And it's very hard to convince someone that they are applying a double standard because they go, well, it wasn't nice. Well, that guy over there just told you the exact same thing. Well, he was being more fair. Well, why was that? Well, he said it differently. Really? Because he told you to cut it the fuck out. She said, can you stop doing that, please? Well, I understood it when he told... These are a posteriori justifications for an emotional reaction. The truth is, we tend to take feedback, even critical feedback, better from people we see like us and who understand us, as opposed to people we see as an other or the enemy somehow, or whose approval we are desperate for. And the concept of equity understands that we need to bring people in and maximize the likelihood that they are going to feel included, that they belong, that they are valued, so we can have these conversations, minimizing that what a bitch emotional response. And that's why words like bitch, incel, I remove them from the conversation because they are instant shutdowns. And the thing to understand about the previous idea of equality is it got hijacked by those shutdowns. Now, equity did too. You know, people just see equity and trace the roots of the movement that came up with the term and go, oh, this is about equality of outcomes because it's you know, some people say it's rooted in the to each according to his contribution, Karl Marx concept. And that didn't start with Karl Marx. He just said it in the most quotable way. Bernard Shaw had a similar idea. After the mass mobilization, well, during the mass mobilization of World War I, the world started grappling with the idea that, okay, if you're asking people en masse to do this, to go to war and to mobilize, even domestically, you know, if all the men leave, all the women have to step up and do the roles that men otherwise did, which, hey, people who complain about the draft showing that society prefers women, that wasn't how the war effort worked. The war effort was a shining example of everybody's gotta do something. Everybody is not going to be cut out for the same jobs. And if you get killed in an industrial accident, it's no different than getting killed on the front lines, right? They're all, the reason women weren't doing industrial work was, oh, it's too hard and dangerous, right? Which I don't agree. I clearly don't agree that women are not capable of fighting in wars and working in industry. That's bullshit, but that was the attitude. And World War I and World War II changed that. All of a sudden, everybody need to get off their ass. And everybody did, for the most part. But then, some men got injured in war. And then what do? Okay, you've got people who lost limbs, who were psychologically scarred, who are missing pieces of their face, right? Whose bodily functions may not have worked as well. Oh, well, women were now expected to do their duty and care for these people, which of course emasculated them. And this is where equality and equity started to diverge. Because equality, oh yes, everyone gets cared for. Okay, but in real terms, if you create a solution that emasculates the men who were unlucky enough to get injured and elevates the men who came back bodily intact, well, that may be equal. All men who got injured get treated the same way. All men who are able-bodied get treated the same way, but it's not equitable. Because there isn't an investment put in to every single individual. And trust me, the whole thing of the whole to each according to his contribution, that's bullshit. No communist society has ever functioned that way. There's always the members of the party, the high-ranking members of the party that benefit more, and everybody else begs for scraps. It's horseshit. You cannot motivate people to go above and beyond if they don't earn something more for going above and beyond. And we know that that doesn't even work. No amount of incentive works if people don't feel like they are treated like they have worth, like they have value. And that is the core. I come up here, I make videos, and I take shit because I am investing in the process. I think that the people who actually do have valid concerns and just want to have the conversation, they're worth eating shit from all the assholes that monopolize the conversation. I believe that that one person who goes, hey, doesn't equity mean equality of outcome? They're worth having the conversation with. The challenge is, hey, y'all making noise and just trolling. Shut the fuck up and let this guy matter for a few minutes. Okay, thanks. Right? That's how it works. Equity is the idea that individual people deserve investment. That a person with a physical disability deserves to participate, even if it means we have to put a wheelchair ramp in, we have to invest. It's equity. It's equitable. We are investing in society because we know we will reap benefits in the long run. Similarly, yes, it can take energy to deal with, some autistic person's info dump. But the great thing about there being different types of brains is autistic people can enjoy certain tasks that allistic people don't. They're happy to hyper focus and do intense research, whereas an allistic person will just give me the top line, give me the TLDR, right? Where an autistic person will read every single bit of dialogue in Trails in the Sky. So if I need a detail about Trails in the Sky, I will ask somebody who went totally autistic on Trails in the Sky, right? Because I'm not going to read it all. I understand that that is an asset for a lot of what I do. So, because I can just go to somebody, hey, what's this? And okay, they'll talk for 25 minutes, but that's different than putting 250 hours into a game, right? Right. So I deal with the info dump. I come to quite like them because I recognize that that person's difference has worth. And the best way to show a person they have worth is to put a little time, effort, and resources into them. That's the idea of equity. And equity does mean watching that diversity programs have not overreached. If you're hearing from white men that they are feeling like their opinions no longer matter, that may just be an emotional response, but it's best to check it out. You invest the time to have the conversation and ask why, right? Why do you feel like your opinions and your comfort doesn't matter? The answer may not be valid, that you may not be persuaded, but you might be as well. For instance, I came from the gaming school of trash talk happens, words are gonna happen, deal. And so it was just, you gotta learn to handle words you don't like. So when people started freaking out over the term incel, I'm like, guys, we know the rules here. But then I started asking, I invested, I put some equity into the people who were deeply bothered by the word incel. Similarly with the people who don't like the word cisgender, by the way. Especially cis, the short form cis. Some people get badly triggered by that word because they were bullied by people who called them sissies. Now, an equality approach would be too bad. Everybody has to hear shit they don't like. An equity approach is, you know what? I can see how that's a reaction that a person cannot help. It is less of an investment for me to say cisgender to blunt the association so they're not going cis, because that sounds a lot like sissy. Sounds like sus too. I see the reason in that. So all right, if the compromise is cisgender, there's multiple compromises. Either we just refer to all trans women as women and all trans women as men, all trans men as men, so it's just men and women. We don't have to say cisgender because we're not saying transgender. Or we say cisgender instead of cis, or when you're talking to that particular person and there is no one sensitive around, you just go man, not cisgender man, or woman, not cisgender woman, right? Because that accommodation makes sense. It is much easier for me. It is much less effort and energy for me to make that adjustment than for a person to walk off a trauma trigger. That's how equity works. Equity, when actually practiced effectively, benefits everyone because it is an ongoing set of checks and balances, right? It is fair to go, hey, can we stop bashing men regarding their childcare abilities? Can we stop making comments about, oh, I have 3 children, 2 children and my husband? These are reasonable things. If your husband is a man-child, that's something to take up with him, right? It shouldn't be normalized that men are adult children any more than the idea that women are adult children who primarily exist to be protected, to show how strong and manly men are. That's not right either. An adult is an adult. We've spent all this time going, what is a woman? Adult, human, female. And those people miss, hey, we don't treat women like adults. Let's start, right? And being treated like an adult is hard. Being treated like an adult, it's worthwhile, but it's hard. Being treated like an adult means you own when you slipped. You own when you overstep. But it also means recognizing that everyone does. So, hey, don't come down like a ton of bricks on people just for misspeaking. If you go, I asked you not to say that, and they're like, I know, I'm sorry. I really appreciate it when people, they say something's bitchy or bitch. It's like, sorry, I know you don't like that word. That's a recognition. That's enough for me, right? And most of the time I let it go because I'm one of those people, like I said, I am used to hearing harsh things. A major change I had to make was, like I said, goddamn, I was a female games journalist at the turn of the millennium. You got treated like subhuman shit and also a sex toy. It was bad. I was like, what are people in 2012 complaining about? It has improved so much compared to the hey bitch suck my dick days of when I started. What the fuck do you know? You don't know games? You're a girl. The stupidest one was, of course you like Dragon Age. You're a girl. The guys who attacked me for giving Halo an 8 out of 10, Halo 3, because what do you know? You don't know good games. It's like the campaign is phoned in. They've created a bunch of building tools, but the game itself, that is not any higher than an 8. I'm sorry, it's derivative and it's the third incarnation and it's still fucking unbalanced. What the fuck do you know, bitch? That's what it was like. That's what it was like. People would take out entire threads on message boards going, she doesn't know, she's this. Well, she's kind of right. But she's this bitch, ho, slut, pick me, names. It became such a haze, I didn't even hear the words anymore. And then I started noticing that people were having a reaction to me because I would speak in a way that they found harsh. And my thought was, yeah, but my understanding is we're all supposed to take this shit. This is the rules. Trash talk. Get good, fuckhead. Right? And then I went, wait a minute. I don't have to participate in this. I don't have to agree to perpetuate this system. I can go, yeah, it's not right that I have to turn off my sense of I really don't like being called that. Stop it. So I turned it back on. And so I'm like, no, I don't like this word. Use it on your own time, but not around me. I don't accept this method of argument. And because I set that rule, then when somebody goes, you know, there's people who I know don't like certain words, I slip, but I try to be careful. And when they have a reaction, I'm like, sorry, yeah. And everybody's different. Everybody's different. One guy will have no problem being called cute. They actually like it. Another guy will feel emasculated by it. You know what? Both are valid. Not liking the term incel because it literally means involuntarily celibate, which means judging someone by their perceived lack of sex. Yeah, that's a totally valid reason to not like this word. And anybody on the left who is like, don't slut shame. But while you're anti-slut shaming, I'm sorry, you can't have one without the other. There's a shining example of don't slut shame. Nobody should be slut shamed, but it's okay to virgin shame. Okay, that's equal. Everybody's treated the same way, but is it equitable? Is it fair? Hell no. That system can't stand. Because, okay, so that's pushing everybody to go out and have as much sex as you possibly can because having no experience is the bad state. Oh, now we have a consent problem. Because we're creating a system where go out and get sex is the imperative. Making sure somebody actually wants to, well, that's secondary. Because my social standing is have all the sex you possibly can. And since that affects my social standing, not whether the other person particularly enjoys it, well, you're creating a consent problem with that paradigm. Whereas what I've found actually talking to people who self-identify as incel or incel adjacent, what they actually want is for someone to choose them. And so what they really are is lonely and kind of bitter and hurt. We have words for that. So I don't need to use incel. And, you know, people who use that word on the left, just instant hypocrisy in my mind. Because you can't preach equity. You can't say DEI is good and then do things that are unequitable. So it's an easy litmus test. Now, are you being consistent? Are you at least attempting to be? If somebody says you're being inconsistent, all right, not intentionally, but I see your point. And the whole purpose of equity is to minimize the stress, minimize the distress tolerance, maximize resilience, and have more give and take for everyone, right? So if some guy at work says, hey, people would take you more seriously if you didn't dress like a slut, that's not acceptable, right? Because you should be able to give back. Yeah, I'd listen to you more if you weren't such an asshole. And most people who come at you this way can't take it. Some will laugh. Some laugh and go, okay, yeah, fair. Okay, we can have a conversation. But, there's a more productive way of, if somebody's like wearing a skirt so short, they're showing body parts. What you can really address is, why are they doing that? Start off like, why did you pick that outfit? Like, why this other than say like pants? There may be a good reason. If someone's like, well, it makes me feel attractive. It's like, well, is that really what you want to be displaying at work? Because I want to be attractive can read as insecure or unserious. And that's still going to sting. But it stings a lot less than, hey, you're dressing like a slut. You see how it works? It's just about treating people as if they have inherent worth. And sometimes hurting feelings is necessary, but let's minimize that. Let's treat people like they have enough value to have the hard conversation, but also enough value to consider that everyone has feelings. And if you say something in a way that's going to maximize the sting, you can't blame someone for acting stung. That's equity in a nutshell. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK, or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it, coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching and have a great weekend.